Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with Emmett Muckles. This is the show of Emmett and Friends. So, today is that day. Today, I woke up very early in the morning and I didn't want to wake up, but you know what? I got a chance to wake up. That is a spectacular thing that you get the chance to do it again. Many of us, especially if you're in an industrialized nation, we find things to complain about instead of looking for the moments of gratitude. You're already a billionaire. You were made a billionaire 30 days after your inception when two cells began their dance, 2 to the power of 30. You were a billionaire, and all you have to do is go through and have this experience of being a spiritual entity having a physical experience. That's leading me into getting you guys outside of your cranium and getting you into your chakras, getting you outside of the plane that you're living on and get you into the other world. And who's going to help me with that? The writer of the agreement, Rebecca Dawson. Hi.
Hi, Emmett.
You like
Thank
that?
You for having me.
You like that shift, don't you?
You're amazing.
And I say this all the time, you have to dig deep sometimes. You have to forget where you are and remember where you are.
I love that. We reference ourselves so much to our external reality. We measure how well we're doing in comparison to everything outside of ourselves instead of checking in.
So I want to go back a little bit here with you. You've been a channeler. You wanted to be an architect, but you started getting divine information and became a channeler at 18. Right at the point where people were thinking about going to secondary school or college, thinking about careers, or just drinking all night.
Well, I was trying to do all of that and it didn't work out too well for me, so I had to pick something.
So what happened? What was the defining moment where you said, this is my path that I need to be on?
Well, I don't know that it was ever a defining moment. I mean, I had an experience of spontaneously channeling when I was 18, and I was actually at university already and working. And, it wasn't part of where I saw my life going. And I have to say that there was an awful lot of resistance to it.
Personally, you were like, were you like a teenager when you're like, you're going to dance class and you're like, I don't want to do dance?
Well, it was just very disruptive. I mean, I thought, well, this is cool. I can do this. But I didn't have a great sense of, I wasn't really identifying with it yet. So it almost felt like something that happened that I didn't really have a lot of control over. And the more that it started to happen, sometimes rather inconveniently, especially if you've had a couple of beers at the pub and you're talking to somebody and all of a sudden this guidance comes through for them. It took me some years to adjust to what life had in store for me, because it was clear from that first moment that it happened that I couldn't continue on living life the same way that I had.
Yeah. So from that, you embraced it. And
well, somewhat.
You look like it. Well, it wasn't like I said, hey, we're going to have cabbage today. And you're like, okay, I'll take the cabbage. What was that? I mean, what was his time span? I mean, from the age of 18 and you're only like 30 now. So
No, I'm 44. So thank you. So look, I think the difficulty with me was I'd always been quite academically oriented. and a real perfectionist with anything. Give me an instruction book and I'll nail it. And I think the difficulty with something like this that started to happen for me is you can't separate it outside of yourself.
Yeah.
It's something that happens through you and it becomes you. And I think, you know, I was so keen when it first started happening to say, right, well, here's something that I can do. Who do I go to? Where's the instruction manual? What degree can I do? How can I get credibility? How can I make this my profession if this is what I do? And of course, with something like, you know, spiritual inquiry or channeling, indeed, unless you're willing to go through a theosophical or religious structure of education, there isn't anything. There isn't any guidance. There isn't an instruction manual for this. And that was the beginning of a really interesting 10 years after that.
Yeah. And, you know, also, if you go back, I mean, because you thought you brought up the term basically spiritual guidance on this plane. In a lot of those circles, that was heresy at some time.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, there are people who were taken out because it's like, oh, we got to get rid of them. They're messing up our cows.
Well, I have a Catholic background too. You know, I went to Catholic school, and I always had an ability just to see energy and to see, you know, relatives that have passed over and that kind of thing. But I learned very, very quickly that that's not something that you share or talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I learned that through my childhood.
Yeah, being a Catholic is about guilt. You got to have that guilt, and we want you to own it. I went to Catholic schools for, you know, a good 12 years or so. But for me, you know, I looked beyond what that was. But out of this came The Agreement. Why did you write this book, The Agreement?
So actually, it wasn't really a conscious decision to write the book. The information was there. And it, you know, I've produced a lot of content over 20 years. I've written a lot of ebooks. I've done 2 other books before this one. But this one, when it came through, the content and the energy of the content for me felt so powerful and so timeless that for me, this book is really what I've come here to do. And actually, now that it's done, I feel quite complete in many ways, because I feel as if this is the information that humanity really needs right now. We're on the precipice of something really new with an old instruction manual for life.
All right. So for the sake of the audience, if you and I were getting in an elevator, I see this attractive blonde woman. I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm not trying to hit on you, but, you know, you look interesting. What do you do? And you say, I'm a channeler and I'm a writer. And my book is The Agreement. And we have 4 stories to get up. And you need to pitch me on this book. What is The Agreement?
So The Agreement really is, in my view, a philosophy or an approach to life that sits beyond and indeed preempts our approach to life as we have known it. And our approach to life as we have known it has been very much based on a principle of cause and effect. If I put energy into this, that energy will be transferred into something and it will give it life and make it grow.
Okay.
And we're moving into a different era of reality now, where the mechanics of how we create and manifest and what we understand life to be is becoming very different. And when you keep doing things the same way in a new reality, sometimes it doesn't work out so well. And I think a lot of people are experiencing this right now.
I would say I am. I used to do that. I'm going to do this and this will happen. Now things pull me in that direction and I have to get out the way. I have to get out of the way in certain respects. But the other thing, I have to stay in the flow of it.
Right.
Which means if I don't really have to do much, but do whatever I am in that encompassed in. Whatever I'm doing, that's enough. Whatever is to come will come. I just can't fight it. I just have to be in the flow and let it come and then adapt to that. And this happened.
Meet it.
this
where it
happened
is.
recently, like last 2 years. I was fighting something and something kept saying, no, stay where you are. I know it sucks right now, but just stay where you are. And then all these other things, I was like, and it started to blossom out. So I understand what you're saying. I also know that we're going through a different shift cosmically.
Right.
We're leaving this very masculine last two eras of war and take and conquering, and we're moving into a feminine age of Aquarius. And I've said this on the show. I've seen this progression of the feminine on this earth is making, and that may be attributed to some of that because we're moving into a different age. But how would you describe what's happening on earth right now?
Well, I think this is something that, a lot of people have been talking about for some years, but we haven't really understood what it is in terms of how reality works. We tend to think of, the expansion of human consciousness, things getting better. This is what everybody, hopes for and moves towards, is a more united human experience, a world that's in balance between the polarities and the dualities. But all of those ideas are still based upon a very third dimensional and dualistic view. If we can get two sides into balance, we'll be okay. But what we haven't done is looked beyond what happens when we shift into a reality that's not based on duality. What happens when we shift into a reality where we're multi-directional and multi-capacitous in what we can do? Then it no longer becomes about trying to find that balance. It actually becomes about becoming more of ourselves, quite unapologetically, and embracing every aspect of ourselves, which allows us to do more and create more. Because, I think every human on the planet right now is feeling incredibly limited. We're limited in how we feel we can impact things, limited in what we think we can create, limited in how much energy we have.
I can understand that. But I think with this time of COVID, and I'll get your opinion, I think it was necessary for us to literally slow down. I think we were just trying to move and do and conquer and make this happen and be in control of things. And someone hit the stop button, said, stop. If you're smart, and if you've prepared for it, you will embrace it, and you will get quiet, and you'll sit like I do at 4:30 in the morning. I sit on my couch with nothing on, and I look at the walls and just breathe and listen to the atmosphere of my children and my wife and the sounds they make in their slumber. A lot of people can't do that. But what do you think the coronavirus is showing us?
Well, it's interesting because at the beginning of the year, we do a themes event at the beginning of every year where the masters come through and we talk about what is the theme for this year. And this year, interestingly, the theme was about nationalism and sovereignty. And when I heard that, I thought, well, that's a bit interesting. That's a bit counterintuitive to becoming more united and collective as a humanity. But really, that nationalism and sovereignty on a microscopic individual level is encouraging us to go back to where our power really is and where our creative capacity really is, where our immortality really is, and where our wisdom really is. Because I think the situation with COVID this year has really led many people to an experience where they really don't know what to believe. They really don't know what to trust. Nothing outside of yourself seems reliable. The goalposts keep shifting. And I think that then is a wonderful invitation to return to our own inner authority. What is true? What is true? What is true about my existence? What is true about life and death? What is true about my health? What is true about what I'm capable of? So it's a great return, I think, to who we really are, because we place so much emphasis on what we are in relation to something outside of ourselves. That's the measure of our worth, oftentimes.
So if I came to you and I'm like, I'm really freaking out. I don't know what's going on. And then you calm me down, probably make me a tea and a little chamomile in it. And I sit there and I go, all right, Becca. Okay, thank you. And I look at you sternly. So what am I supposed to do? The world is crazy right now. What am I supposed to do? How can I keep my consciousness intact?
Well, I love that question. And I think the most important thing is to really reinforce your presence on the planet at this time, because, you know, there's nothing like a bit of panic and a bit of fear of death and illness to make people want to leave. And I think that our ability to really be here and exist regardless of everything that's going on around ourselves, regardless of what we're being told, regardless of what we believe any kind of external danger to be, reinforces humanity in our world. And I think that to know that we exist regardless of whether or not we are still working within a system that tells us our value. I mean, how many people have lost their jobs? And I don't know what it's like there in the States, but certainly a lot of people have here in Australia. People are moving out of relationships. People are losing their identities. And while that may seem terrifying and like a death of sorts, and in particular, we have a very, very high suicide rate here right now. I don't know what it's like for you guys. It's a time to really be willing to be here without being told what your value is or who you are. And I think that's an incredible baseline reset for humanity, that you can exist here,
you know,
anyway.
One of the things I heard, I didn't mean to cut you off, but one of the things that I heard was we are supposed to go through this time. And a lot of people left. A lot of people left this plane. But what I was told was those people desired to leave anyway. A majority of them desired, like, I on a spiritual level, they're like, I'm done. I'm sick of this. I'm going back. A lot of people can't see that, you know, and also the earth we're at a capacity that we've never known in recorded history as far as human beings in existence, sharing the same reality. So what can we do with this? You know, what can we re-understand in the right now, in the midst of loss, in the midst of fear of lack? How can we get centered? What should we concentrate on within ourselves so that we can recenter? And I know a lot of people can't really grasp some of the concepts we're talking about, but if you could just picture it like I'm 3.
Okay. So I think, you know, and I love the way you frame that question. Thank you for that simplicity. I think that so often we get distracted by everything that's going on around us, the systems, the economy, our value to society, where we sit in relation to everything else.
Yeah.
That it's very easy to believe that life exists there outside of ourselves. But really, life is us, and life exists within us. And if that is true, then we are safe when the external reality starts to crumble. And when the external systems that we've been participating with, that we've been adding value to, that we've been measuring our own worth by, begin to stretch because they're saturated with repetition and experience, and they've been done to death, literally. It's easy to think that when everything else around us starts to fail or break down, that we believe that we're breaking down. But life exists in us. We are life. And that's where our solidity is. That's where our stability is. We can't look for stability around us anymore. And I think that's the great gift of 2020.
You know, because we've never been in a more stable environment. As a matter of fact, I look at my society here in America, and I'm a man of color, black man. That's what they say here. And I live in a very white town. And I realize something about some of these small towns. Some of these small towns are really insular. And I was saying to my wife, look, there's another person who's forgotten or doesn't realize it, or they've lost their natural predators because they're just doing stuff that just doesn't make sense. It's almost dangerous. You know what I'm saying? And I think we've gotten so simple in our living where we don't have jaguars trying to kill us. The majority of the insects that wanted to kill us are gone, or we've come up with vaccines. And I think it's an awakening to give people say, like, things can happen to you. Like this world, what you believe is not the end all be all. You need to come back to being human. And you have a statement about the original human design. Can you expand on that for me, please?
Sure. So the original human design and blueprint, as we understand it, is that humans were designed to be the ultimate creator species. And if you look at, planet Earth and the plethora and incredible range of life and species of life that's been here since the Earth's inception, it would be conclusive to say that the Earth itself is designed, or the Garden of Eden, to be an incredible creative place where you have incredible detail, but diversity in that detail. So many permutations of creation. Now, humanity is part of this Earth reality, and we have the ability through our consciousness and the minds and the hearts to create incredible things, to do new things every day, to have a different approach to life every day. That's the gift that we bring to this world. But there have been other forms of systems and other forms of governance and forms of, money distribution and systems of education and so on, that are not designed to encourage diversity of experience. They're designed to encourage repetition of experience, repetition of knowledge, repetition of productivity. And what they do is that they encourage us and get us to bring our attention and our energy, which is incredible energy that we have. We're bringing consciousness to this reality. It gets us to continually expend energy to create the same thing over and over and over and over again. So in other words, we have incredible attention to detail with what we create, but we create the same things. We create the same experiences. We create the same days every day. And so that's not how we're actually designed to be. We've become incredibly repetitive and consistent in our productivity, but it's actually not how we're designed to be. And so when we start to see these systems break down and that we don't rely on them anymore and we begin to question their validity, we start to ask ourselves questions. Well, who am I really? What do I really want? And quite often what happens when we start to really wake up is we say, well, actually, I don't know. I don't actually know what I want. I actually don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to create. I don't even know what I like, because everything's been so repetitive and formulated for our lives. And indeed, I think this is the great shift we're going through right now. And that's why so many people are disillusioned, because we're learning how to walk again. We're learning how to create again. And for that, we have to go through a period of, I have no idea what's going on.
And
untethering.
And you're right, because so many people are suffering. And it's funny because I got busier when this stuff happened. And I always have these moments right before I drift off to sleep where I get some spectacular insight and then I forget it. Well, I remember having the insight, but I can't remember the details. I remember implicitly, I was about to fall asleep, and I understood this thing about the atom, that there's a world within a world within a world. Like this very thing that we're seeing we could be an atom in the system, and that there's space. Anyway, it took me 2 months to remember what I had thought.
Right.
But those things come to me, and they come so easily when I'm between consciousness.
Yes. And where do they come from? They come from within. They don't come from outside of you. They rise up from within. And what happens is our brains are so habitually wired to absorbing information from external sources that when something arises from within, it will either dismiss it or it will reference it to something you already know that you've learned externally.
That's horrible. I mean, because it's a totally new experience. You could, for one, it could frighten people because it's such a new experience. If they were to able to experience it fully, it would be outside the realm of what they could comprehend.
And yet it's happening.
Yeah, because this is what all the masters in the past were able to tap into.
And masters were in human form like all of us. So this is really a capacity that we all have. And it's happening collectively. It's happening for so many people right now where they're having awarenesses and know things and glimpse things that their brains don't have any understanding of. But this is now our natural wisdom and consciousness starting to wake up. And it's enabling us to pay attention to it because during this incredible time right now on the planet, we're a little bit less engaged with where we were putting all of our focus before. So there's space that's been created here for us to actually pay attention and notice that it's happening. And what's exciting for me is the prospect that this is the beginning of a new era of humanity where we pay attention more to the wisdom that's coming from within, this cosmic wisdom about what's real and how life really works, rather than the external wisdom that we're learning, this is how life works. This is where you fit into the picture.
So all of this, is this in the agreement, the things that we're referencing now? These are the topics that are in the agreement that are a little bit more spelled out so people can have a fundamental understanding?
Right. We cover sections in there on belief and what belief is, what thought is, and how thought isn't what we think that it is. Which can be really, really a real shift in view, because the way we think we're constructed and the way we think that we think is not actually how we're designed to operate. Did you like that? The way we think?
Yeah, I like that. That's what got me. I was telling someone, maybe it was on the show, I was telling them, I know it took me years to figure this out, but it happened after I met my wife, my current wife, because I asked for her with emotional intent. You know how you say, I want a cupcake. Has no emotional intent. You might be hungry, but it's not really deep from within your emotional engine. But when I asked for her, and I was kind of specific about it too. I asked for very specific things. And the reason I was asking because I knew it didn't exist. And life says, don't test me like that because I'm going to fill your order every time. And when I do these things, when I test the system, the things manifest right there in front of me. But I have to have secretly, I don't want to say secretly, but subconsciously, an emotional connection to whatever that is. Because I can just say, I want a new job. I hate this job. That's not the right emotional connection for it. When it comes from a place of love or a place of caring or a place of servitude, then the things manifest with ease. Is this part of like what I'm telling you, is that some of the things that we have a contract with that we have to bring to fruition on this planet?
Well, I think that we've had an inkling of it within a framework that tells us that there is cause and that there is effect. And if I intend something, a process can begin to unfold where that manifests into reality. And for a lot of people, I think, particularly when we're very repetitive, for example, there's the repetition again about affirmations or goals or being very clear, if I put in the effort every day, this can eventually happen for me. The mechanics of that can be quite laborious and it can take a long time to manifest.
Yeah.
So there's distance there between the cause and the effect, and a lot of energy is required to get from the cause to the effect. So when we start talking about our natural capacity to create as humans, we start talking about this experience of resonance, where you sit in your true vibration of who you are, and then experiences and opportunities and relationships begin to show up in your reality that are a complete resonant match for you. Now, when you sit in that space and you really feel with that feeling state, that sensorial state, for your wife, I would suggest to you that in that state, you were feeling so much like yourself that you actually manifested somebody that could allow you to have a more amplified experience of who you are. Because relationships, when we create from resonance, it's no longer about being in a relationship where what can I learn from this person and what can they learn from me? How can I resolve some things karmically? How can I work and become a better person? I mean, that's, again, cause and effect. And we get stuck in a hall of mirrors sometimes in relationships like that. I liken it to two candles, and one candle comes along and lights the other one. The love of your life comes into your world and lights you up.
Yeah.
But one of you, the wax is going to melt so much faster than the other one. Whereas if you start operating from resonance, which is what you've just described, you have one candle light in the room and suddenly another one shows up and you have an amplification effect. You can see more around you, more opportunities show up, treasure appears in the room. Now you can see. And it doesn't detract anything from yourself. It allows you to become more of who you are. And I think that's what we're moving towards with relationships now.
So, I could talk to you for hours, but I don't have hours. I literally could. I could just sit and have this conversation with you because you're my kind of people. And it's hard to find my kind of people who really want to come out and be honest. But with that, if people want to find out more information, are you doing anything online? Are you doing any Zoom things or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm always doing things. And I'm kind of multi-directional. So I like to be spontaneous. I think we create better from spontaneity. So I have a website, which is my name, RebeccaDawson.net. And I'm often, I usually travel quite a lot to different places to do seminars and workshops and retreats. But obviously I can't do that this year. So everything I'm doing is online on Zoom. So there's workshop series where it's all channeled content and Q&A. There's a lot of free content on my website, and I have a YouTube channel where I put out channeled messages every month. You can get a free chapter of the book, actually, if you jump onto the website. You get the first chapter on there about the body. But yeah, I'm always doing something, but I don't plan too much, which is a really bad, apparently it's bad business design.
I know, but I feel that way too. It's like something comes and you're like, I'm going to go do this. And they're like, why didn't you plan it out? Because I wouldn't have done it.
Right. Exactly. And the best things are unplanned. If we think about the greatest moments in our lives, the greatest things that have happened to us that have been the turning points or the doorways, very few of them were planned.
I have a lot
They're
of
the
those
things that
moments.
just happen. We don't plan them.
A lot of those moments are like, I have a lot of serendipitous moments.
Right.
It's just amazing. There's so much I want to talk to you about. So let's try this again. Let's let's get together in a few months.
That would be great. I would love that.
And let's get together like right after the holiday, and because we'll be into a new calendar year, a new space, a new numbering system, and see what unfolds on that. But where do you see yourself? Project forward.
Which direction?
2021. That's our reference. 2021 of October
2021. Well, in October, I'm usually I like to take people to Greece. I'm usually up in the mountains in Greece in October, and I couldn't go this year, so I imagine I'll be in Greece at some point in October.
Maybe with a mask
on.
My
favorite time of year to be there. Yeah, there's a beautiful place I like to be right on the border of Albania up there that not many people know about, which is really amazing energy. I think expect the unexpected. I feel so complete actually right now. I feel like I've been doing much the same thing for about 20 years, 25 years, and I don't know. And I think but not knowing means I'll get the best possible surprise.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast.
Thank you too. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I love the alchemy of it, and I love your simplicity, the way you frame things.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? The show has come to an end. Let me explain to you in another term, if you didn't get the first reference, why you're a billionaire. I want you to hold up your hand, and I want you to look at it between where your hand meets your wrist and your longest finger, or longest part of your hand. You may not have a finger. But that is your hand, and it is covered in these things called cells. And the cells comprise the self. That is your hand. And in just that hand alone, there's at least 1 billion cells. We haven't even covered the rest of you. This is what I want to tell you about the cells. The cells comprise the self. Get it? Cell, self. When your cells get hungry, you eat. You don't eat because you're hungry. You are serving yourself. We are here to serve. We are H-U-E, man beings. We are people under a sun that have a specific hue or color. We are in the image of man. And here's where we get it twisted, the being part. So what I want you to do is I want you to go back. And when you get out the shower, I want you to go up to the mirror, drop your towel, and be all in your God body. That is you. Whether you want to admit it or not, the chicken wing arm and the little flabby thing and the moles and the lack of hair, I have that on the top of my head. And I want you to sit in the mirror and I want you to just take that all in. No one can replicate that in what you are. I want you to get close to the mirror. I want you to look at your eyes. And I want you to watch them squint, the internal part, the iris. Because the iris looks like a nebula in the sky. We are fractal. The further out you go, the further in you go, the more they look the same. Remember, you are a billionaire. You are part of the omniverse. So, love is one of the best energies in the planet, in the solar system. You have to love yourself first, because if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. So next time you get in that mirror in your God body and you're looking in your eye, look at yourself and say, I love you. And if you don't believe it, if you don't feel like it, listen to my voice and hear it and say, I love you. Till next time, love you all. Peace.